Americans carry over $1.25 trillion in total credit card debt. The average household sitting on a revolving balance owes close to $11,000. The average interest rate on those balances is above 21%. That means the typical American family in credit card debt is paying over $2,300 a year just for the privilege of owing money. Not paying down the debt, paying to keep the debt. Meanwhile, Japanese households carry a fraction of that consumer debt and sit on one of the largest stockpiles of household savings in the developed world. And the reason is not higher salaries, better government programs, or some cultural superpower. It is simpler than all of that. Japanese people buy less. Not because they cannot afford things, because they were raised to believe that buying less is the smarter move. And after living in both countries, I can tell you they are absolutely right. My name is Kei. I grew up in Japan where buying something new was the last option, not the first. Then I moved to America and learned that buying something new is basically the national pastime. I have been bridging those two worlds ever since. Number 8. Seihin. Noble simplicity. In Japan, there is a concept called seihin. It roughly translates to noble poverty, but that translation misses the point entirely. Seihin is not about being poor. It is about choosing to live with less, because you understand that less is the more intelligent position. It is the idea that a person who deliberately owns fewer things and spends below their means is not struggling, they are winning. And the culture reinforces this. A modest home in Japan is not embarrassing. A small car is not a failure. Eating simple food is not settling. These are signals that you have your priorities aligned and your finances under control. In America, the signals run in the opposite direction. A bigger house means you made it. A new car every 3 years means you are doing well. A closet full of clothes means you have taste. The American dream is basically a shopping list with a mortgage attached to it. Smart Sam practices seihin without calling it that. He drives a car that is paid off, lives in a home that is smaller than what he could qualify for, and puts the difference into an index fund every single month. Nobody at work thinks Sam is wealthy. They think he is cheap. Broke Brian, on the other hand, leased a car that impresses his neighbors, stretched into a mortgage that impresses his parents, and carries a credit card balance that impresses absolutely nobody. The US personal savings rate recently sat around 3%. 3%. That means for every $100 Americans earn after taxes, they save 3. My grandmother in Nagoya would hear that number and assume there was a decimal missing. She lived seihin her entire life. Not because she had to, because she understood that the gap between what you earn and what you spend is the only number that actually determines your future. Everything else is decoration. And here is what makes seihin so effective as a financial strategy. It eliminates the single most expensive habit in American life, which is upgrading things that do not need to be upgraded. The seihin practitioner looks at a functional item and sees function. The American consumer looks at a functional item and sees an opportunity to spend money on a newer version of the same function. One of those perspectives builds wealth. The other one finances the lifestyles of corporate shareholders. Number 7. Kenyaku. The word for frugality that carries respect. In English, the word frugal sounds like something you call your weird uncle who reuses aluminum foil. It has a negative ring. It implies deprivation, penny pinching, someone who cannot enjoy life. In Japanese, the word kenyaku carries an entirely different weight. Kenyaku means practicing careful economy, and it is a compliment. When someone in Japan describes a family as kenyaku, they are saying that family is wise, disciplined, and financially sophisticated. There is social status attached to spending carefully. This matters more than you think. Behavior follows social reward. When saving money earns you respect in your community, you save money. When spending money earns you respect in your community, you spend money. America rewards spending. Japan rewards kenyaku. Same humans, different incentives, completely different financial outcomes. My father was kenyaku to his core. He wore the same 3 work suits for years, rotating them carefully, getting them tailored when the fit changed rather than buying replacements. His co-workers wore newer clothes. His retirement account had more zeros. He once told me that the easiest way to get rich is to simply stop competing with your neighbors. Let them buy things. You buy freedom. Broke Brian thinks being kenyaku sounds miserable. He spends to signal, borrows to maintain the signal, and pays interest to keep the signal alive. The signal costs him over $2,000 a year in credit card interest alone. Smart Sam skips the signal entirely and invests that same $2,000. After 20 years at 7%, that annual $2,000 grows into roughly $40,000. That is the real price of trying to look rich instead of quietly becoming rich. What makes Kenyaku different from American-style penny pinching is the absence of anxiety. American frugality often feels like deprivation. You are saying no to things you want and resenting the sacrifice. Kenyaku has no resentment because there is no sacrifice. You are not denying yourself. You are aligning with a value system that says excess is the problem, not the goal. My father never felt like he was missing out by wearing the same suits. He felt like his co-workers were wasting money on fabric they did not need. Same situation, completely different emotional experience. And the emotional experience is what determines whether a financial habit lasts 6 months or 60 years. Number 6. Ichibutsu Zenyo. One object, every function. Japanese homes are small, not just smaller than American homes. Dramatically smaller. The average home in Tokyo would fit inside many American living rooms. And that constraint changed everything about how Japanese people relate to their possessions. When you cannot own a lot, you learn to own well. Ichibutsu Zenyo means using one object for all its possible purposes. A single pot that boils, steams, simmers, and serves. A table that is a desk, a dining surface, and a workspace. A towel that dries dishes, wraps lunches, and cleans counters. Americans have a different gadget for every microtask. An avocado slicer, a strawberry huller, a banana hanger. My mother saw a banana hanger in an American kitchen once and stood quietly for about 10 seconds before asking, very gently, where the bananas were before the hanger was invented. The counter, it turns out. The counter was the original banana hanger, and it was free. Smart Sam owns a cast iron skillet that he has used for 8 years. He sears, bakes, fries, and roasts in it. It replaced a set of 6 specialty pans that would have cost over $200 combined. Broke Brian has a kitchen drawer that does not close properly because it contains a garlic press, an egg separator, a lemon zester, and a tool that exists solely to core strawberries. Each one was used exactly once. Total investment in single-purpose tools he does not use, probably $300. $300 sitting in a jammed drawer doing nothing is not a kitchen. It is a museum of bad decisions with a 12% return he will never see. The Ichibutsu Zenyo rule applied to your spending is this. Before you buy a specialized product, ask yourself whether something you already own could handle the job well enough. The Japanese answer is almost always yes. And every time the answer is yes, you keep your money. The psychology behind Ichibutsu Zenyo is interesting. Once you start using one item for multiple purposes, you develop a kind of creative satisfaction from it. My mother used the same set of ceramic bowls for mixing, serving, eating, and even as improvised plant saucers. She never bought a mixing bowl in her life. Americans would call that inconvenient. She would call it obvious. Why would you own 4 bowls for 4 purposes when one bowl handles all 4? The answer, in Japan, is that you would not. The constraint of limited space created a culture of resourcefulness, and that resourcefulness turns out to be one of the most profitable financial habits a person can develop. Number 5. Morao, the culture of receiving and passing things along. In Japan, morao simply means to receive, but the culture around it is anything but simple. Japanese families operate informal networks where clothing, furniture, appliances, and tools flow between households like a quiet river. Your cousin's child outgrows a winter coat. That coat goes to your child. Your neighbor upgrades their rice cooker. The old one comes to you. Nobody keeps score. Nobody feels lesser. It is just how things move. In America, receiving someone else's used items carries a stigma that ranges from mild discomfort to outright shame. My kid deserves new. That phrase drives an enormous amount of unnecessary spending, especially on children who will outgrow, break, or forget about whatever you bought them within 6 months. My first bicycle was my cousin's bicycle. My first desk was my uncle's desk. I did not grow up deprived. I grew up in a family that understood the difference between the newness of an object and its usefulness. Those are separate things. A perfectly functional desk does not become less functional because someone else sat at it first. Smart Sam accepts a gently used winter jacket from his coworker's son for his own kid and invests the $80 he would have spent into a $529 education fund. At 7% over 18 years, that single $80 decision becomes about $270. Multiply that kind of decision across dozens of morale moments per year, and you are building a college fund out of hand-me-downs. Broke Brian buys everything new because his children deserve the best. The best, apparently, is a brand new jacket that will be outgrown in 5 months and donated to a thrift store where Smart Sam's neighbor will buy it for $4. The irony is thick enough to hang a winter coat on. The Morale Network also works in reverse. When your own children outgrow things, you pass them forward. The family down the street receives your stroller, your high chair, your winter boots. Then 2 years later, when you need something for your second child, the flow reverses. Nobody tracks debts. Nobody calculates what is owed. The system runs on trust and the shared understanding that useful things should circulate, not collect dust in a garage because your ego needs everything wrapped in plastic. American families spend an average of over $12,000 per child per year. Japanese families spend significantly less. A meaningful portion of that gap is explained by morale. When the stroller, the crib, the winter coat, and the school supplies all come from a cousin or a neighbor, you are not saving 5% on children's expenses. You are saving 30 or 40%. And that difference, compounded over 18 years of child-rearing, is the difference between stress and stability. Number 4. Buyohin, knowing what you do not need. There is a practice in Japanese households where you periodically look at everything you own and separate it into 2 categories: things you need and things you do not. The second category is called buyohin, unnecessary things. The practice itself is not about throwing things away. It is about training your eyes to see what is actually necessary versus what you accumulated out of habit, impulse, or social pressure. Once you get good at identifying buyohin in your home, something interesting happens. You start seeing buyohin before you buy it. You walk into a store and your brain starts categorizing in real time. Need, do not need, do not need, do not need. That shirt is buyohin. That kitchen gadget is buyohin. That subscription is buyohin. The skill of seeing unnecessary things before they become your unnecessary things is worth more than any budgeting app ever built. My mother did a buyohin review of our apartment twice a year. She would walk through every room and quietly remove things that nobody had touched in 6 months. Not aggressively, gently. She would put them in a box near the front door. If nobody asked about anything in the box within 2 weeks, everything went to the neighborhood sharing shelf. In 15 years of this practice, I can count on one hand the number of times someone asked for something back. Americans spend roughly $1,500 a year on things they do not use. Clothes with tags still attached. Gym memberships they stopped going to in February. Streaming services they forgot they subscribed to. Subscription boxes that seemed exciting for 2 months and now pile up unopened by the front door. That is $1,500 in buyohin. Invested at 7% for 20 years. That annual waste becomes over $60,000. Not earning, not hustling, just not buying things you were never going to use anyway. The cheapest dollar you will ever invest is the one you did not spend on something pointless. Smart Sam does a buyohin review of his subscriptions and recurring charges every 3 months. He cancels anything he has not actively used in the past 30 days. Broke Brian has not looked at his subscriptions since he signed up for them. He is currently paying for 2 music services, a cloud storage plan he does not need because his phone already includes one, and a premium tier of an app he downgraded to the free version 6 months ago, but never canceled the charge. His buyohin is costing him roughly $150 a month. That is $1,800 a year. That is a vacation. That is 6 months of emergency fund contributions. That is money literally evaporating, because nobody taught him to periodically audit what is necessary and what is not. If you are finding this helpful, hit subscribe. I share Japanese money wisdom every week that actually translates to American life. And if you want to go deeper on aligning your spending with what actually matters to you, there is a link in the description to a short quiz that builds a personalized plan around your specific financial situation. Takes a few minutes and it might shift how you think about your next purchase. Number 3. Tashinami, the quiet discipline of restraint. Tashinami is one of those Japanese words that does not translate cleanly. The closest English equivalent might be refinement or cultivated restraint, but neither captures the full weight. Tashinami is the expectation that a mature adult exercises moderation in all things, including spending. It is not about rules or willpower. It is about identity. A person with Tashinami does not overspend because overspending would be inconsistent with who they are. It would feel wrong the way wearing a costume to a job interview would feel wrong. Out of character. Japanese culture builds Tashinami into the upbringing. Children are expected to learn restraint early. You eat what is served, not what you want. You wear what fits, not what is trending. You save before you spend, not after. By the time a Japanese person reaches adulthood, Tashinami is not effort, it is default behavior. American culture builds the opposite. Children are given choices, options, upgrades. You want the larger size? Sure. You want the newer model? Of course. You want dessert even though you did not finish dinner? Fine. The signal is clear from childhood. More is available, and wanting more is normal. My uncle in Osaka is worth more than most people would guess by looking at him. He wears simple clothes, he drives a modest car. He eats at home most nights. His apartment is small and clean. Visitors would never suspect that his investment accounts tell a very different story. That is Tashinami. The wealth is real. The display is not. He once told me that the moment you need people to see your money has already started leaving. Smart Sam practices Tashinami by default. He does not budget aggressively because he does not overspend in the first place. His lifestyle is calibrated below his income, and it stays there regardless of raises, bonuses, or windfalls. When Sam got a promotion last year, his lifestyle stayed exactly the same. The raise went directly into investments. Nobody noticed because there was nothing to notice. That is the point. Broke Brian practices the opposite. He calibrates his lifestyle slightly above his income and then tries to close the gap with overtime, side hustles, and optimism. Every raise triggers a lifestyle upgrade. New apartment, new car, new wardrobe to match the new job title. The gap between income and spending never closes. It just accrues interest. Brian earns 20% more than he did 3 years ago and somehow has less in savings. That is the opposite of Tashinami. That is lifestyle inflation wearing a promotion as a costume. The Japanese would say that a person without Tashinami in their spending is like a cup without a bottom. You can pour water in all day, it will never fill up. The solution is not more water. The solution is a bottom. Number 2. Jizoku. The endurance approach to wealth. Jizoku means endurance or sustainability. In a financial context, it describes the Japanese preference for systems that work quietly over decades, rather than strategies that deliver quick wins. Japanese investors famously prefer steady, low-risk approaches. Japanese savers famously maintain the same habits year after year regardless of market conditions. The Jizoku mindset is not exciting. It is not impressive at parties. But it builds wealth with the reliability of gravity. The math on Jizoku is staggering once you see it. If you spend $200 less per month than someone with the same income, and invest that difference at 7% annual returns, after 25 years, you have over $150,000. You did not earn more. You did not start a business. You did not get lucky with a stock pick. You just bought less, consistently, for 25 years. Jizoku. Americans tend to approach wealth building in bursts. They get motivated in January, set up automatic transfers, maintain discipline for 3 months, hit a rough patch, raid the savings, and start over next year. The Japanese approach is different. Set the level, maintain the level. Do not touch the level. Whether the economy is good, whether you got a raise, whether your neighbor bought a new boat, the level stays. My grandmother saved the same percentage of her income for 43 consecutive years. She never adjusted it upward when she earned more. She never rated it when times were tight. She treated her savings like a household bill that could not be negotiated. Water, electricity, savings. Same priority, same consistency. By the time she retired, her savings had compounded into a number that none of her neighbors would have believed, based on her modest lifestyle. Broke Brian sees $200 a month as nothing. It is a dinner out, a streaming bundle, and 2 impulse purchases from an online ad. Smart Sam sees $200 a month as $150,000 because he ran the math, and the math does not care about what feels like nothing right now. Jizoku is not about the amount. It is about the duration. Small amounts over long periods beat large amounts over short bursts every single time. There is a Japanese expression that roughly translates to, even dust, when piled up, becomes a mountain. Americans hear that and think it sounds nice. Japanese people hear it and structure their entire financial lives around it. My grandmother did not accumulate wealth through any single clever decision. She accumulated it through 4 decades of unremarkable, consistent, quiet discipline. No one-time windfall, no brilliant investment pick. Just the same modest gap between earning and spending, maintained across thousands of weeks. That is Jizoku in practice. And the mountain it built was real. Number 1. Mono o ikasu. Making things live. In Japan, the relationship between a person and their possessions is fundamentally different from the American version. Mono wo ikasu means to make things live, to bring things to their fullest use. It is the practice of extracting every possible function, every remaining month, every last drop of value from something you already own before even considering a replacement. A shirt is not old because it is 3 years old. A shirt is old when it cannot be worn, mended, or repurposed. Until that moment, the shirt lives. My father drove the same car for 11 years. Not because he could not afford a new one. Not even close. Because the old one still worked. When friends asked him why he did not upgrade, he looked at them like they had asked him why he did not throw away a perfectly good meal halfway through eating it. The car runs, he would say. Why would I replace something that runs? Americans replace things on a schedule that has nothing to do with function. New phone every 2 years. New car every 4 years. New wardrobe every season. The items being replaced are not broken. They are just not new. And in America, not new feels the same as broken. This replacement cycle is one of the most expensive habits in American consumer culture. The average American spends over $1,500 every 2 years on phone upgrades for devices that still function perfectly. Over a lifetime, that is tens of thousands of dollars spent replacing working technology with slightly different working technology. My father would call that spending money to solve a problem that does not exist. Smart Sam uses his phone until the battery physically cannot hold a charge and the software stops receiving security updates. That usually means 4 or 5 years instead of 2. Over 20 years, he buys 4 phones instead of 10. The savings on phone purchases alone, invested modestly, become a noticeable line item in his retirement accounts. Broke Brian upgrades every cycle because the new camera is slightly better and the color is different. The camera improvement he paid $800 for is a difference he will not notice in 95% of the photos he takes. But the ad made it look important, and importance is what Brian buys when he thinks he is buying technology. My mother still uses a rice cooker she received as a wedding gift. That rice cooker is older than I am. It works perfectly. The lid has a small dent from when I knocked it off the counter as a child, but it seals fine. An American would have replaced it years ago, not because it stopped working, but because a newer model has a timer function, or a stainless steel finish. My mother would look at the newer model, look at her working rice cooker, and wonder why anyone would pay money to solve a problem they do not have. That sentence is essentially the entire Japanese financial philosophy compressed into one question. Why would you pay money to solve a problem you do not have? Mono wo ikasu is the single most effective wealth-building habit I have seen in Japanese households. Not because any individual decision saves a fortune, but because the cumulative effect of keeping things alive touches every category of spending. Clothes last longer. Appliances last longer. Furniture lasts longer. Cars last longer. And the money that would have gone to replacements goes somewhere far more productive. It goes to work. 8 behaviors. No apps, no advisors, no complicated strategies. Just a different relationship with buying. The Japanese approach to money has never been about earning more or finding the next great investment. It has been about needing less, wanting less, replacing less. And the distance between those two ideas, the gap between American consumption and Japanese restraint, is where wealth quietly builds itself while nobody is watching.